Grand Rising, everybody. Let me move some stuff around. Welcome. We're going to be going over the full moon in Taurus today. Excited to be covering this with you all. This is a really cool, expansive full moon. Let's wait for people to come in. Let's wait for people to join on the live on Instagram. So we're live on Instagram. This is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube as well. Good morning. Hi. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Really excited to be tapping into the astrology of this full moon with you guys today. So we're going to be talking about the full moon in Taurus that we had this morning. Was anybody able to see the full moon last night? It was at 5:19 a.m. Eastern time, 8:19 a.m. Pacific time. So it was just the full moon was just a few hours ago. Um, who's been in their feels? Who's been in their feelings? Um, but Yeah, this full moon in Taurus, right? Really about pleasure, our value system. It's about money, our relationship with money, resources, food. So we're gonna go into a little bit more depth because I've been getting quite a few downloads around this full moon in Taurus. Um, and I'm excited to share them with you all. So let's wait for people to come in. Let's wait for more people to join. To all of you that are new followers of mine, the Hood Healer, Amani, went ahead and reposted my one of my lives that I did on Monday for the Weekhead Astrology, and I got quite a few new followers. So those of you that are new to my page, welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Louie. I go by the Soul Sage on Instagram, and I am an intuitive astrologer and tarot reader, and I do karmic astrology. So the type of astrology that I do, I kind of merge, Eastern Vedic astrology, Western astrology, Hellenistic, ancient astrology, and I kind of like make it my own. I do my own thing. Which other astrologers have opinions about, but I don't really care because I'm gonna do the things I'm gonna do astrology and tarot and do my spiritual work the way that I know best. Okay, so but thank you guys for being here. So excited to have you guys here and to go over this full moon in Taurus. So let me pull up the chart. The way I'm going to be reading the chart for this full moon is I'm going to actually be putting the moon on the rising. So we're going to be setting the chart to Taurus rising. So if you want to do that, let's say you have a computer, an iPad out, you want to take a look at the chart so you can kind of take a look at what I'm looking at. Please go ahead and do that now. Okay. I'm gonna actually get the chart pulled up. Okay, so we have Scorpio season. I gotta put in the date. Hold on. Hmm. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Okay, there we go. Cool. I'm just getting the chart pulled up for our full moon in Taurus. Okay. Mamdani ended up winning. We ended up having a whole bunch of landslide political victories for the Dems yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well and how we could see that in the chart. What is going on with my computer? Hold on. My computer is like acting funny right now. November 11th, 2025. So we saw a lot of cool progressive leaders win yesterday for the midterm elections over here in the States. And that is because Mercury and Mars went into Sag, opposing Uranus and Gemini. So we're going to start to see a lot of, progressive. Uranus and Gemini is going to bring a lot of progressive, new, young leadership politically. So I'm excited for Uranus and Gemini in the next 7 years. Um, Even though it is going to be a little destabilizing for us collectively, it's going to be necessary. So I'm excited for that. All right, 8:19 a.m. I'm gonna pull up the chart for where I'm at. Yes, Beaver full moon in Taurus. There we go. Okay, cool. 13 degrees, an Aries degree full moon. Go put this into whole sign, and then let me fix the chart. So those of you that are new to astrology, thank you for being here. Thank you for being open to astrology. Um, astrology is definitely it's having its time in the sun, I would say. And I think astrology is becoming more and more prominent. And it's going to continue to be a very prominent thing. Hold on, let me actually put it in this direction. I don't want it to look like that. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, cool. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen on here so that people on YouTube watching it back can like see what I'm looking at. Alrighty, so share, share screen. There we go. Cool. All right, awesome. Everybody here, thank you for being here. All right, so we're gonna be talking about the full moon in Taurus today that we just had. Actually, let me go make my tea really quick while y'all are chilling. Give me a second. My water is boiling. I can hear it. Okay, and I have to get like a little. Oh, there we go. Ah, all righty. We're here. We made it. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Grand Rising, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be at in the world. All right, let's dive into the full moon in Taurus. So, this is going to be a full moon that's going to be focusing on Taurus things. It's being disposited by Venus at 28 degrees. So, full moon in Taurus. I'm putting the moon on the rising. And what I'm noticing, the first thing about this full moon, it's being disposited by Venus, who's in the sixth house away in Libra, and Venus is at 28 degrees, which is around where we had our new moon in Libra 2 weeks ago. So just to give you all a little reminder, 2 weeks ago, we had our new moon around 28, 29 degrees of Libra, I believe. So we have Venus, the ruler of the full moon in Taurus, which is about culmination and completion. Full moons, they bring things to culmination, they reveal things, they expose things. Also, full moons are astrologically when the sun and the moon are opposite each other, right? So there tends to be a breaking point. There can be a rupture. There can be a tension point because when the sun and the moon are pulling at one another, they're antagonizing each other, right? There's something that the sun and the moon are trying to show us or trying to reveal to us around something that's, needs to evolve, especially for a full moon in Taurus or the sun in Scorpio, something that needs to evolve, something around our value system, something that's got to give, like a breaking point. And we might see this, with Venus in the sixth house in Libra from the for the full moon in Taurus on the ascendant, from the moon in Taurus on the ascendant. We might see this around things associated with health, with our habits, our behaviors, with our routines, with our jobs, our work. For a lot of people, this full moon is gonna be about something changing with their day to day. So it could be a new job that they get, it can be a job that they leave behind or let go of, right? The reason why jobs are connected to the sixth house is because they are part of your routine. They're part of your daily experience, right? For many of you that have a job, especially a full-time job, what do? You go to work every day, right? Or 5 days out of 7 days of the week. And it's part of that sixth house routine. It's part of those habits. It's part of it kind of, working a job, becomes a part of your daily thing, your daily practice, your daily lived experience. So with Venus, the dispositor of the full moon, Venus being in the sixth house in her rulership, we have an exalted moon in Taurus. This is leaning more towards good outcomes, possibly with jobs or with work experience, or even with our routines, or us feeling the need to get back into balance and harmony in our life in some type of way, right? We have a full moon in Taurus ruled by Venus in Libra, who's Libra is a sign of balance. Libra is a sign of justice. Libra is a sign of fairness, right? Libra is the sign of relationships and partnerships. So even though we have a full moon in Taurus, that's not really about Taurus is not a sign that's really about relationships. It actually is because, and I was talking about this on the week ahead forecast. I was talking about how the axis of Taurus and Scorpio and the axis of Libra and Aries is about relationships. Both of those axes. Why is this? It's because both of these axes, Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, they're ruled by Venus and Mars, respectively. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars, Taurus is ruled by Venus, right? Aries is ruled by Mars, Libra is ruled by Venus. So, and this is what you see, and this is what I see as an astrologer, as someone who practices. When I'm looking at readings, when I'm looking at people's charts who have a lot of second house, eighth house, first house, seventh house placements, or they have a lot of Scorpio, Aries, Taurus, or Libra in their chart, relationships are always a big theme in their life. And not just intimate romantic relationships, even though that tends to be a pressure point and that tends to be a area of learning for them, for those that have a lot of first house, seventh house, second house, eighth house placements, or they have a lot of Scorpio, Aries, Libra, Taurus, the combination of that. All relationships seem to be a pressure point for them. So it could be relationships with their parents, it could be relationships with their friends, it could be relationships with, their kids, it can be their ex, their baby daddy, right? Their boss at the job, right? Like there's like these really intense experiences that they go through in relationships where they're here to learn certain lessons, they're here to evolve certain things, they're also here to clear out certain relationship karmas that run in the family, right? So things around codependency, things around domestic abuse or domestic violence, or things around financial issues. The axis of Taurus and Scorpio is about the money, the financial issues that you have with others. So Taurus and Scorpio is like what you owe me, what I have, what you have, right? Like, okay, we bought this house together. Now we're going through a divorce or a separation. Okay, who's gonna get what? Like, the alimony, the child support, we're getting a divorce. Okay, are you gonna buy me out in the house, or are we gonna, that's what Taurus and Scorpio is about. That's what the second house, eighth house axis is about. It's about when we partner with people and we merge with them, first is the relationship, the social aspect of the merging of the partnership, right? Which is the marriage, which is the business partnership, which is getting the business agreement together, which is the contract, the loan agreement, whatever. That's Aries and Libra. But then the actual financial entanglement and our experience of the financial entanglement, right? Us getting the loan together, us pulling out debt together, us buying a house together, us letting the other person borrow money, right? That's Scorpio and Taurus. So that's where we start to get to, the deeper, more personal, a little bit more sensitive aspects of a relationship, because this has the axis of Taurus and Scorpio also speaks to trust. It speaks to values. It speaks to betrayal in relationships, heartbreak, loss, devastation, being cheated on, being deceived, being taken advantage of financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, even, right? This because Scorpio and Taurus, that second house, eighth house axis, right, has a lot to do with the deeper, darker, more, difficult, more emotionally challenging, more frustrating, more painful, Scorpio, painful aspects of our intimate relationships. So with Venus at 28 degrees Libra, ruling over the full moon in Taurus that's at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degree, there seems to be some kind of karmic rupturing or some kind of karmic breaking point, or even some kind of revelation or epiphany that we have around partnership, around others, around a lack of equality, a lack of fairness, a lack of justice, a lack of integrity in our relationships. And this full moon in Taurus is like, take a look at what hurts. Take a look at what is missing. Take a look at what you've been denying. Take a look at what you've been hiding, running away from. Take a look at what your intuition has been telling you about that person, about the way that person's been moving, about the way you've been feeling, right? Really take a look at your feelings. What are you feeling? Are you feeling that this is giving you truth? Are you feeling like this is giving you confusion? Are you feeling like this is giving you mistrust? This is giving you red flags or green flags? You got to pay attention to this during this full moon in Taurus cycle, because this full moon in Taurus is trying to reveal to you or show you something that is off. And this can be about a relationship or partnership, but this can also be about something within you, something within yourself. So maybe you haven't been living in a balanced, fair life or a balanced, harmonious way, right? Maybe in some ways you have unhealthy habits or behaviors that have been knocking you off kilter, that have been bringing you out of balance, right? So this can be about, and this is one of the things I was talking about on Monday, with the full moon when I was lightly covering it. I was talking about, the full moon in Taurus being about indulgence and pleasure, right? Taurus is what makes us feel good. The food that tastes good, the sex that feels good, getting the massage. Taurus is the sign of our five senses. Taurus is the sign of sensual pleasure, right? Taurus is the sign of things that make us feel comfortable, things that make us feel safe, things that make us feel good, right? And it's a sign of luxury. Taurus, Libra, these are Venus is she's a luxurious sign, right? This is why Taurus, to me, when I think of the Empress card in tarot, I think of Taurus, because the Empress, she just sits there and looks good, right? She doesn't have to work too hard. She's just enjoying the abundance and the fruits of everyone else's labor, right? I was gonna look for it in this deck, but I'll save that for another day because I'll get on a whole a tarot tangent that I'm not trying to get on. Um, so, when we're talking about Taurus, we're talking about sensual pleasure, but also because Venus, the ruler of this full moon in Taurus, is squaring Jupiter in Cancer. There's a square between Venus and Jupiter, and she's separating from an opposition with Chiron and Leo, right? There's a propensity to overindulge during this full moon cycle. To overeat, overconsume, overspend, to get oversexed, to engage in pleasure and desire in a way that's too much. So we also want to be very mindful of this Venus and Libra ruling over this full moon in Taurus. Balance. Balance in all things. Balance in our spending habits, balance in our relationships, balance in our pleasures and our desires, balance in the way that we indulge in pleasure, the way that we indulge in food, the way that we spend our money, the way that we indulge in, substances and sex for some of us, right? Because Taurus and Scorpio, this is about sex. Scorpio is the sign of sex, and Taurus is a sign of pleasure, right? And what in sex, Scorpio brings us pleasure, Taurus, right? Think about it. Sex is one of the only human acts that you can do with another human being where you are engaging all five senses, right? You're tasting the person, you're smelling the person, you're feeling the person, you're looking at the person, okay? You're eating the person. Right? No, we were eating, okay? Some of y'all listen, okay? You're eating something, okay? I also think this is why, the axis of Taurus and Scorpio is why food can also be a very sexy thing for people, right? People love, oh yeah, bring that chicken wing into the bedroom, okay? Oh yeah, go ahead and bring that apple pie oh yeah, go ahead and bring the cream, bring what is it, the whipped cream into the bedroom, right? Because that's what Scorpio and Taurus is about. Scorpio and Taurus are about intimate pleasure, intimate desire. And also Scorpio and Taurus is access, it's how we form intimacy with others. We form intimacy by what? Sharing our body, sharing our pleasures, sharing our secrets, sharing our desires with people, right? Taurus and Scorpio, this axis demands vulnerability for intimacy in our relationships. It demands truth and integrity for closeness in our relationships at the same time, right? Because Scorpio is our traumas, Scorpio is our fears, Scorpio is all the things that we hide, all the things that we keep secret. And when we really love and value someone, Taurus, what do? We are vulnerable, we're open, right? We share all of our intimate, secret, darkest desires, our darkest pleasures, things like this. And so this full moon in Taurus, right? It's really gonna, it's a kind of like a checkpoint around our relationship with Taurus energy, but also with the sun opposing the moon in Taurus, the sun in Scorpio, our relationship with pleasure, desire, sex, and even things that are taboo in nature, right? The full moon in Taurus could also activate or, open up doors for hidden secret things to come out. So, with the sun in Scorpio, Um, I'm kind of getting that this full moon with the sun in Scorpio can, because the sun is trying to reveal or show something to us, right? The moon is trying to get us to feel. The moon is trying to get us to move, is trying to get us to change, right? The moon is trying to get us to reflect on something, but the sun in Scorpio is trying to reveal something to us. It's trying to show us something that needs to transform or change or evolve as well, right? And that revelation can be about secrecy, can be about deception, can be about something coming to light for you. Either you realize something or have an epiphany, or you see something or realize something about someone else, and you're like, wait a minute, I need to act differently. I need to address the situation. I need to challenge this person. I need to confront this truth. They've been hiding something from me. They've been keeping a secret from me, right? And then there's a moment of revelation and epiphany, right? So, or there's a moment of tension and conflict, or there's a moment of, okay, I got to address it. I got to deal with this, right? So, I think these are all things that are going to be very relevant and very important during this full moon in Taurus for us collectively, with the full moon in Taurus being disposited, being ruled by this 28-degree Venus in Libra, who's in the sixth house away from the full moon. This is also going to be, this is also because the sixth house, so in Vedic Eastern astrology, the sixth house is about open enemies, where in Western astrology, it's the seventh house. Okay. Well, we have Venus in the sixth and the sun in the seventh away from the full moon in Taurus, which is on the ascendant in the first. So this kind of tells me as well that there may be some challenging or difficult situations. I'm getting intuitively, this is around family possibly. There could be challenging, difficult situations with family. I'm just seeing the Jupiter in Cancer squaring the Venus, and I don't know, and the Sun ruling the fourth. There's something around family, people from the past coming back, ex-lovers, your baby daddy, like, your aunts, your uncles, your siblings. There's something around some kind of tension or some kind of friction or some kind of woundedness or something that we need to address associated with the family, with the past, with, exes of the past, people that have pulled at us emotionally in the past in some type of way. There's something that this full moon in Taurus wants to reveal, wants to expose, wants to evolve or change associated with these relationships or these connections. And it's about, I don't know, it feels like it's about family, aunts, uncles, cousins. It's about lovers from the past, or it's about also kind of redefining certain family relationships, family connections. So there's something like this, okay, that I'm picking up with the full moon in Taurus, with Venus and Libra. There is a little bit of a carryover from the new moon in Libra energy with this full moon. So there's something about we're initiating relationships, we're going about them in a new way, or we're redefining our relationships, okay, in during this full moon in Taurus. So this may be like, okay, I'm not you talking to someone and you're like, I don't like the way you talk to me, I don't like the way you treat me, I don't like the way that this relationship has been going, this something has been missing in the relationship, I don't like the way you've been moving, and I'm so there's something that we need to address or talk about, or there's like a point of tension or friction or something like this with relationships, okay, but there's going to be some people resurfacing from the past. Also, I want to remind you that during this full moon and Taurus cycle, what happens starting on Sunday? Mercury retrograde. And it's Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Okay. So this is going to be a very important Mercury retrograde for mutable signs specifically. But because it's Mercury retrograde combined with Mars, we're going to see a lot of men spinning the block in some type of way. A lot of men going back to things of old. A lot of men retracing their steps. And I don't want to say just men, but I want to say people that are masculine in nature. So you could be someone who's trans, you could be someone who's non-binary, but let's say you feel more connected to your masculine principle, you feel more like a Mars person, right? You're a little bit more of the masculine, okay? You're of the masculine. Well, we're going to start to see a lot of those people spinning the block, going back to old ways of doing things, going back to the past, those people resurfacing because Mercury is going retrograde in combination with Mars. So Mars is not retrograding, but Mercury starts to retrograde at 6 degrees Sag, right next to Mars, because Mars just went into Sag. So Mars is going to be at what, 2 degrees when Mercury starts retrograding at 6. So we're going to have this Mercury retrograde starting next week. Well, it starts on Sunday, but we're going to feel it next week. With Mercury going backwards right on top of Mars as Mars continues to move forwards. So, there is something around, you know, Martian people, Martian things fights, men, anger, frustration, conflicts of the past coming back possibly. We're going to start to see this next week. I'll talk more about that on the Week Ahead Live next week. And also, I'm thinking about doing a Mercury retrograde live on Sunday, just on Mercury retrograde. So I'll talk more about it then. Okay, but let's get back to the full moon in Taurus. Okay. So, all right. So, full moon in Taurus, disposited by Venus and Libra. Oh yeah, I was talking about the new moon in Libra that we had at last degree. So what I was talking about is how this full moon is an action point or a tension point or release point from our full moon in Libra that we had 2 weeks ago, because Venus is now at the degree that we had our new moon where we had our new moon in Libra at 2 weeks ago. And Venus is the ruler of this full moon in Taurus, right? Venus is in her rulership. The moon's exalted in Taurus. So there's something around Venus hitting that new moon point, Venus ruling over the full moon in Taurus, where she's like trying to initiate or trying to get us to move or act on something. All right. She's kind of bringing something new. But Venus is at the last degrees of Libra and she's about to go in Scorpio. So, one of the things I want to remind you guys of is that even though we have this beautiful full moon in Taurus that's ruled by Venus in her rulership, Venus is about to go into her detrimental state starting Friday on right. So this Friday, on the 7th, Venus enters Scorpio, where she's going to be at for the next 3 weeks. So Venus in her detrimental state during our full moon in Taurus is going to be bringing up a lot of stuff around relationships, my loves. I just got to be honest with you. A lot of resentment. So also, I want you to be mindful of certain energies that come up right now. Emotionally, that need purging or releasing during this full moon in Taurus cycle. So there could be energies of jealousy, there could be energies of control. There could be energies of possessiveness. There could be energies of, heartbreak and loss and grief and betrayal. There could be energies of resentment. Okay. There could be these kind of shadowy, darker emotional energies that this full moon in Taurus pulls out because you got to do something with it. You got to release that shit and let that go because it's unhealthy for you. It's unhealthy for the body. It's unhealthy for the gut. Okay. Let me tell you one thing. The Pluto and Scorpio generation, a lot of them, what are we seeing right now? What have you been seeing the last few years? It's been showing up in the media. A lot of them dealing with PCOS, a lot of them dealing with colon cancer or issues with the colon, reproductive health issues, a lot of them dealing with, digestive issues. They got IBS, they got, Crohn's, they got what is it? The diverticulitis. Oh, we got the Pluto and Scorpio people. They're in the 30s and 40s. They got diverticulitis in the 30s and 40s. I don't know how you manage that, but you know what it is? It's all the trauma that you're storing in your gut. It's all the resentment. It's all the, jealousy. It's all the envy. It's all the fear. It's all the toxic emotion that you are holding on to, right? And when we hold on to that toxic emotion, what does it become? It becomes PCOS, it becomes heavy bleeding, it becomes, digestive health issues, it becomes colon cancer, it becomes polyps, it becomes diverticulitis. It becomes diverticulitis. My grandma had that. So the way she would talk about her diverticulitis was really funny. The way that she would it was funny. Bless her heart. I miss my grandma so much. But so this full moon in Taurus, especially for the Pluto and Scorpio generation, okay, is inviting you to let go of all that shit in your colon. Let go of all that bullshit that you've been holding on to, all that toxicity, all that, resentment, all that woundedness, all that victim mentality, all that fear, like whatever these unhealthy, toxic emotions that we've been holding on to. This full moon in Taurus is like, take a look at that. Guess what? That's unhealthy. You got to do a detox. You got to cleanse. You got to purge. You got to release this, right? And let me tell you something. I just got to let you guys know this, okay? Spirit is telling me, this is the download I'm getting, in the next 2 weeks during this full moon and Taurus cycle, there can be somebody or something that happens that triggers and reveals and exposes this trauma, this resentment, this betrayal, this fear, this heartbreak, this loss, this grief, this there's maybe something or somebody that you run into or something that you experience that is an element of the past, okay, that triggers a memory and that triggers some bullshit coming out. Okay. And what spirit is telling me is that this external situation, this person, this whatever you experience, it's meant to trigger a bowel movement. So what it's meant to do, it's meant to show you that it's time to go to the restroom. It's time to pass that shit. It's time to flush it down the toilet. It's time to let it go. Okay? Because it's not meant to come with you. And the only place for it is in the pipes in your toilet. Okay, that's the only place to put it. It ain't meant to be going with you. You're not meant to drag it with you. You're not meant to hold on to it. You're not meant to carry it with you and try to bring it back to no. It's got to be flushed down the toilet. Like that's the only place for it. Okay. So there's spirit is saying just let that shit go. Okay. Like I think for some people, this full moon in Taurus is gonna be about this humble acceptance that something's gotta give and something's gotta go and something needs to transform and change. Okay. Someone said, "Is that why I've been going to the restroom so much?" Yeah, more than likely, yes. Yeah, because the thing is, right? Well, our bowels have been getting stimulated all over the last like 3 4 weeks because we've had a lot of Scorpio energy, right? We had the sun in Scorpio, we had Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, up until this week, right? Up until last week we had Mercury in Scorpio, right? Mars just went into Scorpio today, or not today, yesterday. Mars just went into Scorpio yesterday, or Mars went into Sag yesterday. Mars was in Scorpio for the last like month and 2 weeks. So we've had a lot of Scorpio energy. So there's been a lot of stuff coming, a lot of what happens, right? So this is actually a medical astrology thing. When the planets are accumulated in certain signs, those elements of the body become stimulated, or we're more aware of those elements of the body, and health issues that we already have, pre-existing health issues that we already have, can get activated or triggered because the signs and the planets are also intimately connected to our body in our physical form. And this is a beautiful thing to talk about for the full moon in Taurus because Taurus is about our physical body, our physical form. So Taurus is about our relationship with the material world, right? Our relationship with money, our relationship with objects and things. This is why Taurus, you'll see this with people that have a lot of Taurus placements, especially if they have their moon or Mercury there. They deal and cope with emotional things through the material world. So this is like, oh, if I'm feeling bad, I'm gonna go shopping. Oh, if I'm feeling bad, I'm gonna go and treat myself at a restaurant and eat something really nice. Right? This is what Taurus does. Taurus is about dealing with things through the material world, food, the body, pleasure, money, but objects, things. This is what Taurus is about, right? And so what we see with Taurus is, you know, where was I going with that? I was talking about the full moon. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, this is where I was going with that. Okay. Um, what we see with Taurus is how physically they could be impacted by energies, right? And how if they struggle with the relationship with the material world, this is where they start to suffer or where they start to deal with hardship. Because when Taurus has an overly materialistic relationship with like the material world, when they're too materialistic, when they're too involved in the physical world, right? They can become a slave to it. And this is for all of us. This is a collective message. So, one of the things that we always want to remember about our relationship with the material world is we never want to let it hold command over us. We never want to develop any kind of obsessive compulsive relationship with it, or we don't want to develop like a toxic relationship or even look to the material world or look to pleasure and desire to cope with our trauma. Because why? Why do we go to food? Why do we go to pleasure and indulgence? Why do we go to sex? Why do we go to money, spending money, right? Buying objects to cope with trauma many times. Because Taurus is on the axis of Scorpio, the side of trauma. So this is why we are looking to fill a deep emotional void, Scorpio, with material things, with physical things, with pleasure, Taurus, because they're on the same axis. Does that make sense? So, we want to be mindful with this full moon in Taurus of our health and our body, but we also want to be mindful of how we possibly use pleasure, indulgence, money, food, sex, whatever, in order to cope or deal with our trauma, right? Because ultimately, it doesn't heal anything spiritually or emotionally, right? We can't use the physical material world to heal things that are spiritual, emotional, or mental, right? So that's one things that you want to just be very mindful of, okay? You want to be very, very mindful of this during this full moon in Taurus. Are you using food? Are you using pleasure? Are you using desire? Are you using money? Are you using the material world to avoid the inner work that you got to do, to avoid the deep inner emotional stuff that you got to address or work through, right? Very, very important. Very, very important that we be mindful of this. But also, one of the things I was saying, the reason why we're talking about this is because, you know, the Taurus has a lot to do with the body in the five senses. And astrology, as the planets are moving in the sky and they're going through different signs, they're going to bring awareness to certain parts of the body, to certain parts of our certain health things, right? So this is why we know it's been the Virgo Pisces eclipses, the South Node's been in Virgo. A lot of people have been getting sick or been dealing with chronic health issues, or people have been dealing with digestive gut issues, right? Is because we have the South Node in Virgo. And then right now during Scorpio season, right, we had, or even during Libra season, we had a lot of planets in Scorpio. We had a lot of Scorpio energy. So, the eclipses in Pisces and Virgo from September to October. And then even now in Scorpio season, there's been a lot of health stuff coming up around digestion, around the kidneys, around blood sugar levels, around diabetes and things like this for people. Because, yeah, as the planets are moving in the sky through the signs, they're also activating energies within our health, within our body. Like our body, our physical form responds to planetary energy. This is why when it's a full moon, everyone's feeling more emotional, right? We have more people acting erratic, what is it? Lunacy, right? Kind of insanity, right? Lunacy, like what's the other word? Acting like a lunatic. Yeah. So the word lunatic and lunacy, it actually comes from people's behavior during a full moon. That's where that word came from. Like, because when there's a full moon, the hospitals know, the nurses know, oh my God, we're going to have an influx of patients. We're going to have an influx of people coming in, to the emergency and coming to the doctor during a full moon, because the full moon activates our emotions, but it also activates our body. So one of the things to remember in traditional astrology, so this is going back to Hellenistic traditional astrology, okay? The moon is actually connected to the body, and the moon is a co-ruler of the physical form. So when like back in medieval times when astrology was being used for medicine, okay, when astrology was actually being used by doctors. So in the medieval times, to be a doctor, I don't know if you guys knew this in Europe, okay, if you were going to be a doctor, you had to be astrologically in the know, and you also had to pass certain astrological tests because medicine and astrology were intimately intertwined in the medieval times. So doctors would actually use your birth chart to prescribe or to diagnose you with health issues. Because the birth chart would can indicate, and this is what when I do readings for people, I show them this all the time. I'm able to see what health issues run in their family, what health issues they've experienced based on their birth chart, because the birth chart's going to show you your areas of vulnerability when it comes to your health. It's going to show you also where transits are at right now in the sky. If you're having health issues, the birth chart will also show you the current health issues that you're having, but also the health issues that you're predisposed to, right? The health issues that run in the family. You can see it very, very strongly in the chart. And it doesn't have to be like a genetic thing. It could also be a behavioral thing, right? And I see this all the time. I see this all the time. Like I could look at a chart and I can tell, oh yeah, your parents or your mother was overweight. Your mother had diabetes. Your mother had a problem with money. Your mother had, reproductive health issues or, cancer runs. You can look at that. You can see that in the chart, right? So, let this full moon in Taurus remind us that, astrology and the planets can also be guides towards understanding our health and understanding our body in an intimate level and kind of getting to know our physical form better, right? It's so interesting, being someone that reads so many charts. It's fascinating to see when I'm looking at a chart, when I read a chart, and you can literally see in the chart that this person is here to work on their health and their body, right? And you'll see this when someone has a really strong focus on the sixth house in the first house, right? There's a lot of first house, sixth house stuff going on. They're literally physically here. They're literally here in this lifetime to learn to take care of themselves and to learn to eat right and to learn to honor the body and to learn to treat the body with respect, right? And that's what this full moon in Taurus, I think, partially is about as well. It's about how are you treating your body? How are you treating your health? Right? How are you treating your physical form? And when you really love yourself, when you really value Taurus, what we value, moon is exalted in Taurus, self-love, right? When we really love ourselves and value ourselves, and we have gratitude and appreciation for the vessels that we've been given, we're not going to do things to harm the body in the physical form, right? We're not going to go ahead and just have random, chaotic sex or dangerous sex or even potentially risky sex with others. We're not going to go ahead and overindulge and overconsume, right? We're not going to go ahead and, do things that are harmful for the physical form in the body when we truly deeply love ourselves, right? When we truly deeply love ourselves and we're in right relationship with our physical form in the body, right? Um, and because the earth signs, Taurus, Scorpio, and Virgo, or Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo, the earth signs are here to learn. So if you're someone that has a lot of earth in your chart, you have a lot of Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo in your chart, you're here to learn how to deal with the material world. You're here to learn how to hold mastery over the material world. So this is holding mastery over the body, over the health, over food, over money, over career, over work, right? You're here to master these things. You're here to learn how to utilize, money and resources to build wealth, to build a home, to build a business, to build a healthy legacy of health, to build a legacy of health, right? So like that's what the earth signs are here to do. They're literally here to learn how to build a relationship, a healthy, strong, solid relationship with the material world in so many different ways, right? And that's the reason why people come into this plane with earth placements with Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo, because they're here to learn about the physical form and about the physical body and about the physical world and master it. It's one thing to learn about it, it's another thing to master it, right? Um, Totally created a whole business plan on my own, but with a mentor. Yeah, see, super important. So if you are someone that, or even if you have a lot of second house, sixth house, 10th house placements. So, you may not have earth placements in your chart, but you may be someone that's very about the material world and health and the physical form, and you're ambitious and you're about your bank account and you're about your money and you're about your career and all that because there's a strong focus of second, sixth, 10th house placements that you have in your chart, right? So someone that is a second house stellium, they could be any sign, but they can feel like a Taurus, or they can have a lot of priorities and values similar to a Taurus because they have so many placements in the second house. And the second house is about what? Food, values, our money, our bank account, our relationship with the material world, objects, things that we desire, things like that. Um, things of comfort is the second house. Second house is things of comfort, right? So, okay, I just want to share that insight with you guys. Okay, let's get back to the full moon, okay? Because I don't even know how, but it's 10:48, we're an hour in. I don't even know, and I feel like we've just touched the surface of this full moon. Just touched the surface of this full moon. Okay, all right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about with the full moon is how this full moon is really about it's highlighting relationships and communication, and it's highlighting the way we interact with others and also friendships and things like this. The reason being is because we have the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune in Pisces in the 11th house from the full moon on the rising. We have Jupiter in the third house, and then we have the Sun and Lilith in the seventh house. So houses 3, 7, and 11 are activated in the full moon chart. So this tells us that there's a lot of things with this full moon that are meant to shift or evolve or change in the way that we communicate, the way that we express ourselves, the way that we engage in partnership and relationship with others, the way that we, engage with friendships or social groups. There's like some kind of evolution, there's some kind of transformation or change, or there's some kind of, activation, I would say, or even an awareness and attention that you need to give to these areas of your life. Houses 3, 7, and 11. So these are all our connection houses. These are our relationship houses. These are the houses that of partnership, of friendship, of community, of neighbors, of aunts and uncles. Third house of our siblings. Third house. So, this full moon in Taurus with the houses 3, 7, and 11 being highly active, I think that, this full moon is going to reveal some things or show us some things or even have us expand and grow in some ways possibly, because I do think this full moon is bringing in good things and abundant things. I think it's bringing in new connections and new partnerships and new relationships as well, but it's also moving us away from unhealthy relationships or partnerships, and friendships that are not emotionally fulfilling or emotionally honest, or even relationships where there's not integrity or trust or truth, right? If there is relationships that are lacking integrity, trust, truth, openness, fairness, balance, then something's got to give, something's got to change. Good morning, my love. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay. All right. So the other area that I want to talk about this full moon that I think is very important is the fact that Mars and Mercury are in the eighth house in Sag, opposite Uranus and Gemini in the second. So, what I will say is this is kind of like this energy of Mercury, Mars, and Sag opposite Uranus and Gemini, for the full moon between the eighth house and the second house is about instability when it comes to resources and money and finances for a lot of people collectively. And the Mercury, Mars in the eighth house could be telling you that you need support or help from someone. And this could be, you need support from the government, okay? You need support from your mom or your dad, okay? You need support from a therapist or a psychologist. You need to talk to a lawyer. You need to talk to a medical professional about your health issues. There's something with this full moon in Taurus, with the Mercury, Mars in the eighth, opposite Uranus in the second. There's something that we need, or there's something that we want or we desire that we don't have or that word that's missing, and we need to go and ask for it or seek it, or we need to go and be vulnerable and quest for it in some type of way, or we need to like, be open to support and help from others. Okay, is what I will say with the Mercury, Mars in the eighth, opposite Uranus in the second. And also, I do think with the Mercury, Mars opposite Uranus, there's a lot of people that are breaking out of certain patterns. There's a lot of people that are fed up with the bullshit, and they're like, you know what? I'm leaving this person behind. I'm letting this job go. I'm done with this habit, this behavior. I'm done with this, pursuit, this desire. I realize I want something different for myself. I want to do something different. I want to be someone different, right? There's something about the Mercury Mars opposite Uranus for the full moon in Taurus that's about freedom and emancipation and taking action towards creating space in your life, or creating more, like, creating space, but also creating, yeah, more room for freedom. That's what I'm getting. Spirit is telling me more room for freedom. Applying for a line of credit and now the bank owns me. Oh, yep, that's an eighth house thing. Eighth house is debt. So that makes sense that, going, needing to borrow something or needing to ask for something. The eighth house is debt. But, sometimes this is one of the things I tell people, um, those that are learning astrology. The eighth house is not just your taxes and money that you owe or debt. The eighth house is also money that you borrow, right? So it's like an eighth house transit could be you getting a loan for a car or a house. Eighth house could also be you receiving alimony. An eighth house transit could also be you getting an insurance payout after an accident. So, or you receiving, benefits, or you receiving support from the government. So you getting unemployment in some type of way, right? That is also the eighth house. So the eighth house is all unearned income, income that we don't earn with our own work, with our own value, with our own time, with our own energy. It's money that we're given. Sometimes we're given it for free, but also it's inheritance, right? Why is the eighth house inheritance? Because when someone dies, eighth house, you get money. Second house. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes our tragedies and our misfortunes, eighth house, can also be a money pot. Second house. You think about these people that file wrongful death lawsuits, on behalf of a family member that passed away, and they file that lawsuit against the police officers, they file that against the company that, the person worked for, or against, if it was like, let's say there was a car accident and that person ended up passing away, whatever, right? They file these lawsuits to get some kind of compensation financially for that tragedy, for that loss, for that death. Eighth house, the compensation is the second house, right? Does that make sense? So, this Mercury, Mars in the eighth house, opposite Uranus in the second, could be, oh my God, you do need a loan, but it could be like taking out a loan for something good or something positive. Right? Because you want to purchase a house, you want to get a car, you want to go back to school, right? So I think a lot of people have a lot of fear of debt and taxes and money because of the eighth house, second house, right? And a lot of people, there's people that I know who will not touch a credit card, who have no credit, and then when they want to buy a house or buy a car, they don't have any kind of loan history. They have no credit. They have, and so they're not able to, or they have to pay in all cash, right? So, the invitation with understanding the eighth house and us learning about it and us kind of developing a healthier relationship with it is also kind of understanding that sometimes we do got to take a loss, or we got to go into debt or take a loan out, or we got to borrow something or ask for something in order to create abundance in our life, in order to create, a business, in order to create, um, you know, uh, or even in order to invest in ourselves in some type of way. So it's like getting out a student loan to go to school so that eventually you make better money, right? It's like that. And that's how I would invite you guys to think about the eighth house as well. It doesn't just have to be a tragic, terrible, traumatizing, No, it's not about that. There's way more complex financial experiences that we go through as human beings that can also be seen through the eighth house. And this is something that I just want you guys to keep in mind. We tend to give a lot of, negative, we tend to project a lot of negativity onto the eighth house, and it's not just about that, okay? It's not just about that. So someone said, I just have to say, I love these deep dives you give for free. I'm gaining so much knowledge. You're welcome. Yeah. This is me. I love to share. I love to give. And I'm here to share knowledge and wisdom. I have Saturn in Sagittarius in my 10th house. I have Jupiter in Aries trining Saturn. So that's exactly what I'm here to do. And I'm glad that you guys are learning, because I always approach astrology from a perspective of wanting to share and wanting to learn and wanting to teach or wanting to empower others. Okay. So with Mercury, Mars in the eighth house, opposite Uranus and Gemini in the second for the full moon in Taurus, right? And when we're looking at the full moon in Taurus chart, I want you guys to be very mindful of, unexpected expenses during this full moon, or, payments and stuff like that that you didn't see coming. What I will say, we're about to have a Mercury retrograde in Sag coming up on Sunday. So that's starting on Sunday. That's with Mars. Okay. If you have Okay, let's say you know that your heater is going out. You know that the gas tank, the I don't know, the exhaust, the whatever in your car needs to be replaced. You need an oil change. You need new tires, okay? You know that, your air conditioner is giving out. You know that there's something, a mechanical device in your life that you rely on, that you need, that you use daily, but you know it's at its end, or you know that something needs to be fixed or repaired. I would say you should go and get that done before Sunday, before the Mercury retrograde, okay? Because what I will say is the combination of Mercury and Mars opposite Uranus for the full moon in Taurus, and Mercury about to go retrograde, there's gonna be people's cars breaking down. And the last thing you want with Mars is you don't want your car to catch on fire, or you don't want to be on the road and you're driving on bald tires and all of a sudden Mercury, your tire pops, okay? Or your tire explodes when you're driving or something. You don't want that to happen. So what I will say is utilize this time before Mercury starts retrograding in combination with Mars on Sunday, use the next few days, okay? Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get anything fixed or to get anything repaired or to get anything, whatever. You got to get that done. Someone said they're taking their car at the mechanic on 11. Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of technological malfunction. There's going to be a lot of technological issues. There's going to be a lot of like small little devices, computers, cell phones. I don't know if anybody still walks around with, iPods and CD players, but things like that are not going to be functioning properly, or that going to misfunction, or they're going to go ahead and there's going to be some rupturing or some difficulty, and you don't want it to turn into an unexpected expense. You don't want it to become something, well, you just needed that simple oil change, but now you were driving without changing your oil for X amount of time, so now you got to get your whole transmission fixed, or you got to get a whole new transmission or engine, right? Some things like this. So whatever we don't do, whatever we kind of sleep on, whatever we avoid, at some point it could become a bigger expense or a bigger problem. And this is what Mercury teaches us. Okay. This is what Mercury teaches us. Mercury says, if you don't mind the minutes in your day, then they're going to become hours, and then the hours become days, and the days become weeks, and then you're going to have to go back and fix the weeks, the hours, the days, right? Like it becomes a bigger problem the more that you wait on it. So this is a lesson with Mercury. Mercury says deal with it now, and deal with the problem when it's small before it becomes big. Okay. This is why Mercury opposes Jupiter by sign, right? If you deal with the problem when it's small, right? Mercury, then you get to avoid a larger problem down the line, Jupiter. Because Jupiter is about large things or big things, and not all large or big things are good things. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind with the Mercury, Mars in the eighth house, because this is a giving unexpected expenses. This is also another thing I will say. This is just a download I'm getting. I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe it's Neptune back at 29 degrees and Mercury, Mars in the eighth. Be mindful of scams. Be mindful of bad investments during this full moon cycle. So let's say someone is like, oh yeah, I got this thing and you can like make money and blah, blah, blah. Well, Mercury is about to retrograde in Sagittarius, conjoined with Mars and opposite Uranus and Gemini. So if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Okay, so just be very careful, be very mindful with how, who you're sharing your information with, the people calling on the phone, who you're talking to, any kind of new investment opportunities or things like this. Be very, very mindful of this, okay, with this full moon in Taurus because of Mercury, Mars in the eighth house, opposite Uranus in the second in Gemini. What I also like about this, let me tell you what I'm liking about this. So this is the download I'm getting. People are feeling motivated to make money in new ways, in like outside of the box ways, or people have been getting downloads or ideas around ways that they can make money part-time, or like services that they can offer, or things that they can sell, in order to bring in new streams of income or create new abundance. And also what I'm getting with these business ideas, or these like, it could be a part-time job, or it could be like a side hustle. The thing, the a down that I'm getting with this is it's people doing something that they're passionate about, or people doing something that they're deeply emotionally or spiritually connected to. So this can be a product, this can be a service, this can be a business idea that's like connected to like the family history in some type of way. This could be a product that is about healing or helping others. This can be about, oh yeah, my grandma had a salsa, and and she has a custom recipe for salsa, and I want to market it, and I want to promote it, and I want to, as a part of honoring my grandma's legacy, I want to like, do a product line of salsas or something. I don't know, something like this. There's something like this coming up for people with this full moon in Taurus. So if you are someone that's been feeling called to start a business, pioneer a product, make money in new ways or something like this, I think you should listen to what your feelings are telling you, listen to your intuition, and kind of trust that, there's abundance out there. There's more money that can be made. There's, wealth that can be grown. One of my mantras for me, one of my mantras when it comes to money is money grows on trees. Because it does. And for like, I'm a firm believer that money does grow on trees. And I'm a firm believer that we can grow our own money. We can grow our own wealth. Like, but we have to become a gardener. We got to learn how to garden. We got to learn how to build our own, nest, how to build our own garden. We got to learn how to farm, right? Because when you create your own wealth, when you create your own business, when you create your own money, right? You have to tend your own garden. You're not going to, and this is a metaphor I use all the time when it comes to being an entrepreneur and making money for the self and being a business owner and stuff. Um, when you are your own business owner, when you make money for yourself, you have your own garden and you get to go to your own garden for whatever you need, right? But it requires more work and more upkeep to where when you are an employee and you work for someone else, you are depending on their garden. You go to their garden to go ahead and work and make money and support yourself, right? But you don't own it. That's not your garden. You're just going there. They're paying you to work in their garden, right? So with this full moon in Taurus, there may be some revelation or epiphany for people around, I do want to grow my own garden, or I have some ideas of seeds that I can plant that can create independent abundance and wealth in my life. And I think that's something that you should reflect on, or if you are someone that's being called to that, like to start your own business or make your own money or open up a store or even start offering some kind of service to someone, or start offering some kind of service for things that you've been learning, you should do that. Okay, you should definitely do that. All right, thank you for buying a badge, everyone that's bought a badge. I love you all so much. Thank you for buying a badge. I appreciate you guys. Catalyst energies. Yeah, there's definitely catalyst energies available. Yes. Especially because Mercury and Mars, right? They're opposite Uranus. Mercury's gonna start retrograding in its opposition with Uranus. This tension with Uranus, and then also Uranus is going back into Taurus, right? So that's another thing. One more thing I want to, oh my God, and we're already talking about this. So check this out. Okay, check this out. Uranus is going to be doing things for the next uh month. Uranus is very active. So Uranus goes back into Taurus, 29 degrees on Saturday. Okay? And then 2 weeks from now, we have a new moon in Scorpio that's at last degrees. I believe it's at 27 degrees. We have a 27-degree new moon in Scorpio that's directly opposite Uranus and Taurus at 29. I was looking at it this morning. So we're going to have a new moon that's coming up 2 weeks from now in Scorpio, last degrees, that's directly opposite Uranus. Right as Mercury is retrograded back into an opposition with Uranus. So we're these are kind of like it's time to break free. It's time to emancipate ourselves. It's time to liberate ourselves. It's time to radically do something different. That's what this energy is showing us. That's what this Mercury retrograde is going to be about in this opposition with Uranus. This Mercury is going to make three oppositions to Uranus. Mercury is going to retrograde, oppose Uranus. He's going to go all the way back to Scorpio, right? Into late degrees of Scorpio. Mercury's going to go direct and oppose Uranus again as he moves forward. So he already hit an opposition with Uranus. We had that Mercury Uranus opposition last week. But so we already had that first opposition. So Mercury's in a retrograde, have another opposition with Uranus, and then Mercury's going to go direct and have a third opposition with Uranus, right? On top of the new moon that we're going to have opposite Uranus. So this Uranus activation, we're seeing it. We just saw it yesterday, right? Look at all the new young political leadership that we have as of yesterday, right? Mamdani ended up winning, winning mayor of, or you ended up winning the mayor race, right, for New York. I was reading that Virginia just got their first, I think they're one and only their first female governor in like 200 years or 300 years or something. Is it Virginia? I think so. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up real quick. I think it was Virginia. Female governor, Virginia. Was was it Virginia? Am I right about that? Yes. Democrat Abigail Spanberger is elected Virginia's first female governor, right? This is the energy of Uranus, breaking glass ceilings, something new, something different, something that we've never seen before. And we're seeing a lot of Uranian energy in the sky right now, anyways, because Uranus and Pluto have been trining each other. So, what have we been seeing with technology? We're seeing technology, we're seeing a lot of new breakthrough technology, right? It's been like we've seen it's been crazy when it comes to science, when it like in all ways, shapes, and forms. We've been seeing a lot of new radical technology, but we're seeing this politically, and we're going to continue to see this politically through Scorpio season. And we're seeing this politically now because the sun's in Scorpio. We have a full moon in Taurus. In Scorpio, right? So Scorpio and Sagittarius, these are signs that have a lot to do. Well, actually, Capricorn too. These are signs that have a lot to do with politicians, especially Scorpio. It's one of the things I've noticed. Um, in reading a lot of charts, but also looking at a lot of charts of political leaders, is you very commonly see Scorpio placements. Like Mamdani has Mercury Mars conjunct in Scorpio, right? He's a Scorpionic guy as well. I wanted to be a politician when I was younger, and I'm a Scorpio, so I have a Sun in Scorpio. I have Sun, Mercury, Pluto all conjunct in Scorpio, and I have Venus in Scorpio at 22. And when I was young, I was like, I'm gonna be a politician. I wanted to be a politician, and I actually went to school for like social justice and nonprofit work. But then, Spirit redirected me and was like, Louie, this is no. Being a politician, well, not now, not at this point in my life. Maybe in the future, maybe at some point. But Spirit is like, nope, you're here to live the spiritual life, Pisces rising, Scorpio, ninth house stellium. You're here to be somebody else, not that, okay? You're not going to be doing that. That's not, you know. So yeah, with with Uranus, okay, what was I talking about? I was like having to retrace my steps. With Uranus so involved, in this upcoming astrology now, but also we're going to continue to see Uranus involved. We have a new moon in Scorpio 2 weeks from now that's directly opposite Uranus. There's this energy of having to break free, break through, and also, you know what I'm getting? I don't know if you guys have heard this phrase. Sometimes you got to break down to break through. And a lot of people are going to be finding themselves there. So you may feel in some ways with during this full moon and Taurus cycle, or even during the Scorpio season, that like you're in crisis, or that you're like going through a tower moment and like everything's collapsing and everything's falling apart and whatever. But it's also what Spirit is telling me. It's a profound moment of liberation and freedom, and it's a divine moment of things falling away, or us moving away from things, or you forcibly being moved away from things, or even things forcibly being taken away from you, okay? Because it's a prison in some type of way. It's holding you back in some type of way. It's preventing your evolution. It's preventing the future from unfolding the way it's supposed to. It's stopping you from moving into your next timeline. Okay. So don't take it personal. All right. Understand that crisis energy, that feeling like everything's falling apart, that feeling like, like it's things that are inauthentic, or things of old, or things that are not in alignment with you falling away because they're not meant to come with you. You got to leave them behind. You got to let them go. Okay? So that's what Spirit is saying. And it feels like a death. It feels like something's taken away. It feels like sad. It feels like painful. It feels like something even I don't know, it even feels like a surgical procedure for some people. So it feels like you're getting dissected into it. It feels like you're getting surgery on something. But it feels like something's getting removed. But you got to understand, okay? It's all part of this divine process. It's all part of this divine moment of awakening and enlightenment, and this also a moment of emancipation and freedom. It's like a being freed of this. It's like this karmic burden being taken away from you. It's like being, emancipated. All right. It may not feel like that in the process. It may not feel like that now, but eventually you're going to realize that that's what it's about. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you all because that just came through as like a download. Okay. Um, So yeah, with Mercury, Mars opposite Uranus and Gemini, also for the full moon, people are speaking their truth and they're taking action, and we might be feeling a little frustrated, a little irritable, you know? We might be feeling a little triggered in some type of way, okay? Um, yes, easily triggered, especially around beliefs. So watch out with Mercury, Mars, and Sag opposite Uranus for the full moon cycle over the next 2 weeks, like arguing over politics, arguing over your beliefs, arguing over your opinions, arguing over, insignificant thing. No, I don't want to say your opinions, your beliefs, your politics are insignificant. No, but engaging in insignificant or meaningless banter or arguments to where you know that that person's not going to change their mind, you're not going to change your mind. We're just frustrated and we're just like arguing. Like, why? What's the point? You know, unless you feel that your disagreement or your conversation is actually can possibly create meaningful change or can possibly, you know, create more intimacy or more closeness or can also, you know, influence someone to shift or change their political beliefs, I would say just be very mindful of how you go about asserting yourself, how you go about communicating, how you express your opinions or your beliefs, or even be mindful of challenging other people's opinions or beliefs or ideas. Especially if you guys are just in disagreement, you guys are in like two polar opposite places when it comes to beliefs, opinions, ideology, politics, religion, whatever. Be mindful of engaging with that or engaging in conversation or like dealing with it because or addressing it because there may not be nothing good that comes of it. It could just be another argument or another fight or something. It just could create unnecessary drama, right? Because Mars opposite Uranus is very rebellious. Mars opposite Uranus is a very Uranus is in Gemini, the sign of communication. Mercury's in Sag and his detriment. Mercury's in a sign that he loves to express truth in, and he's very unfiltered. So Mercury in Sag does not care what people think, does not care how it's going to impact people. Mercury in Sag is like, I'm going to say what I got to say, and you got to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to speak my truth, and whatever that is, however that impacts you, I don't really care. Like that's a Sag thing. That's a Mercury and Sag thing for sure. And then with Mars on top of it, Mars right there next to Mercury, it's like, okay, well, actually, I'm feeling a little, I'm feeling like an instigator. I do want to go ahead and say some shit. I do want to go ahead and ruffle someone's feathers. I do want to go on the attack a little bit just to kind of test someone or just to see how that person reacts, right? We want to be mindful of that energy. You want to be careful because you could end up poking a bear and then you realize, oh shit, I just poked the bear and now that bear is chasing after me, retaliating, and you're like, oh damn, well, you did that, so I don't know what to tell you. You put yourself in that position, okay? So be mindful of going on the attack. Be mindful of being excessively defensive. Um, and just understand that people are going to be feeling very sensitive around their political beliefs and about their opinions and about their ideas right now. People are feeling very sensitive around these things. And before we engage in conversation or even we engage in argument with someone around that, just ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is it worth my time? And is this going to bring anything meaningful? Is there anything good that could come out of this? And if not, just avoid it altogether, okay? Is what I'll say. All right. Um, but yeah, the other thing I wanted to say for this full moon, this is for some folks, this is going to be a very blessed, very opportunistic full moon. Um, for some folks, this full moon is going to bring expansiveness and it's going to bring joy. And it's going to bring, you know, um, possibly a family visit. Maybe you haven't seen someone for a long time and this is your first time seeing them in so many years. So there's this element of also, you know, healing family lineages or healing family karmas or even, people of the past that we haven't seen in a long time. And we have these really beautiful healing moments with these people possibly in some type of way. So, or even good opportunistic things coming for some folks. Especially if you are a water sign or an earth sign. So if you are someone that has a lot of Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer in your chart. This can be a very, very beneficial full moon for you where you get a moment of recognition, you get a, moment of abundance, or, you get paid what you're paid, or, someone finally realizes your worth and your value, or, you land a contract, or you land a business deal, or you get a good job, or you also meet someone that can be very influential or very pivotal for you in your life, possibly. I think earth signs and water signs right now are, I think the water trine, the grand water trine that we had in the sky last week, but also there's, we're going to have this, we have the sun in Scorpio, we have Jupiter in Cancer, we have Saturn in Pisces, right? I think there's a lot of cool, really cool karmic alignment happening for water and earth signs. Okay. Um, what I will say for air signs and fire signs, this is more about, this full moon and this energy right now is more about your emotional development. It's more about going deep within yourself to kind of figure out, your desires, your motives. You kind of are having to go within. Even if you don't want to, this energy is pushing you to go within water signs and air signs. Or I'm sorry, fire signs and air signs. But air signs, this energy is more about your relationship with the material world. And it's more about like money and work and career and things like this. Um, where for fire signs, it's more about psychological, emotional, spiritual development, fire signs. That's what this energy is about right now. It's about you, activating your intuition, you addressing your trauma, you addressing your fears, you taking a look at your past. Fire signs are having to go through a really deep metamorphosis with this energy right now. And I love that for you guys. It's good. You don't want to avoid this work, this inner work that you're being called to do. Aries, Libra, Aries, Sag, and Leo. There's a lot of inner work that you got to do right now. You really want to focus on that. Okay, very important. And then the air signs, this is about, you holding mastery over the material world. Like the air signs are really having to learn about their worth and their value. Air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are having to learn about like daily habits and behaviors and self-care and stuff like this. Um, Water signs are just having to really see their worth and their value overall. I think water signs right now are energetically needing to really align with who they are and what they want and kind of, working through inner stuff that they've been avoiding. So, it's inner stuff, but it's more also about like how you show up in the world. Like Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer, this is a time where you really need to know your worth and know your value. You need to get clear with what you want in your life. You need to position your life in a way, and this could even be your living environment, who you're surrounding yourself with. Position your life in a way that feels good, where surrounding yourself with people that pour into you, and really seeing your worth and your value, seeing your worth and your value, knowing what you have to give, what you have to offer, and also aligning with your talents and your skills. Like, water signs right now, spirit is trying to wake you up to just how gifted, just how talented, just how capable you are. Okay. And for earth signs, this energy is about the development of your relationship life. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Your Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, your social life, your relationship life, your love life needs to evolve and shift and change in some type of way. You need better friends. You need, to let go of some friends. Something in your relationship life needs to change. The way you communicate with others, the way you communicate with yourself, the way that you think about yourself, the way you think about, the way that you interact with others. This has to evolve or change. Earth signs. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Okay. This is energy right now. This moment is about your relationship life evolving and your social life evolving. Okay. In some type of way. Yeah. And moving away from healthy, good connections or moving towards healthy, good connections and moving away from unhealthy, toxic, codependent, lackluster, empty, void, cold, mean, controlling, karmic relationships. Moving away from those ones, earth signs. Okay. All right. That was just a quick little blah, blah, blah. That was just a quick little blurb for you guys. Someone said, someone said, are we gonna get lucky enough that you open your schedule? Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, I'm taking a break from readings right now, and this is because I'm burnt out. It's because majority of my energy and my time goes to doing readings, and that's how it's been for the last 5 years. I'm a practicing astrologer and tarot reader. So What I mean by that is I do astrology daily for people. Okay. And I'm pretty good at it, I would say. You guys, if you want to go and take a look at my reviews, you could go look at my highlights tab on my Instagram. There's like 3 or 4 highlights tabs where people have given me reviews, or it's not even a lot of it's not even reviews, it's just feedback. It's just people tell me, oh, this happened, or you gave me a reading, and blah, 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 right? And I post them all on there. But my work is evolving right now. My work is evolving. And I don't want to give so much of my time and my energy to the one-on-one readings. I want to give more of my work and my energy and my time to the collective, to the community, and to growing my like social media presence and things like this. Because yeah, I go through burnout. I go through energetic burnout. And this is another one of the things that I want you guys to understand. For those of you that don't do spiritual work, or for those of you that want a little bit of insight into this line of work that I do, if you are someone that's considering becoming a full-time astrologer, tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, because I do this full time. So that's another thing I want to let y'all know. I don't have any other job. My full-time job over the last 5 years has been as a reader, as a spiritual worker, as a tarot reader and astrologer. Okay. But one of the things I want you guys to understand, for those of you that are wanting to get into this work, or you don't really get it, or not that you don't really get it, but I want to give you some insight into my life. This work is energetically draining at a very different level. Okay. So when I'm doing astrology and tarot for people, I'm not just looking at charts and looking at cards. I'm energetically channeling, I'm tapping into your spirit team, and I'm getting psychic downloads. I'm getting intuitive psychic downloads. And that energy of connecting to spirit and channeling and connecting to the divine, right? And like that psychic intuitive relationship with spirit that I have when I'm doing my work, that's the part that's really exhausting and really draining for me. Like that muscle, that's a muscle. And I can do 3 readings a day, 4 readings a day, right? But by the end of the day, I'm so tapped out. I'm just like psychically, energetically, I'm like exhausted. And so what I'm doing by taking some time away from myself is I am resetting energetically. I'm going to refill my the well within, okay, my psychic well, my energetic well, but I'm also going to be redefining the way that I do readings and redefining like how I share my work with the world, and also putting more energy and time into like my social media platform and things like this, because this is what needs to grow, right? Because I don't want to be someone that has to do readings full time all day every day in order to like get by. And I do really well, like, I do really well. So, I'm very taken care of. I'm very blessed. God has blessed me with a beautiful life that I'm so grateful for. And that's one of the things that, I'm very aware of, but also, have to make sure that my work and the way that I share my work and my talents and my skills and my gifts with people is energetically sustainable for me. And I'm learning what that is right now. I'm kind of, I go through these periods of burnout where, I'm on for like 3, 4 months. I'm like doing back-to-back readings. I'm like doing all that, right? And then I get to this point where I just like flatline and like burn out. And so, I'm using this time to myself to really figure out what does a sustainable work-life balance look like for me? Okay. And also kind of like putting my energy and my time into other areas of my work that need to expand and grow, which social media is included in that, right? So, all right. So just to give you guys some insight, so I'm fine. I'm okay. Everything is good, right? But as someone who has a Capricorn moon, my work ethic can be a little. Someone said, "Let me find you a little Groupon spa day in Portland." Well, I've been doing not daily, but I've been doing weekly massages with this wonderful masseuse. I've been doing a lot of self-care stuff. So, I've been really investing in my health and my body, and that's been a big focus. Saturn retrograded back into my ascendant, and I just came out of a first house year. But even now that I'm in a second house year, perfection wise, it still disposits to my eighth house Mars. So my health and my body and things like that are have been coming into focus for me, I will say. Okay, and there's certain things I've been having to work on. So, um, someone said, yeah, my Capricorn moon doesn't know when to stop working. Online evergreen course on learning how to read tarot, connecting to divine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think you should do a nice little trip somewhere you've never been. I am going to do that. I'm thinking about doing that. Look at Jersey's tapped in. Look at that Pisces moon. I think you have a Pisces moon, Jersey, right? Um, he's tapped in. Y'all be psychically tapping into me sometimes, and you need to get out of my business. Is Marissa here? Marissa's another one that needs to be getting out of my business because she be picking up on things for me, and I'm like, Marissa, get out of my business with your psychic self, okay? I'm gonna be posting this live on YouTube, yes. But yeah, I am gonna be doing possibly a solo trip. I don't know, we'll see, either this month or next month. So I'll let y'all know. Let y'all know about that. But get out of my business. Stop tapping into me, okay? Stop. Listen, I can only read you guys, okay? Listen, don't read me. All right? Mind your business, okay? I'm just kidding. I love you guys. All right, let's keep going with the Taurus full moon. All right, let's keep going with the Taurus full moon. Just, oh, oops. I didn't mean to do that. Let me share this back again. All right, so, um, all right. Let's see. So we talked about quite a few things. We talked about quite a few things. What's some last things that I kind of wanted to mention? Heavy on the don't read me. That's so Scorpio. Yeah. That's very much so. But I read everyone else, okay? No one reads me, okay? Um, yeah. So, um, what are some last things that I can talk about with the full moon? Da, 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 da. We kind of talked about a lot. Let me see if there's anything else. What's coming to me is the full moon being at an Aries degree. So I think I'm gonna talk about that, and then maybe we'll just wrap up on that because we've been here for like an hour and a half already. Um, so the full moon in Taurus is at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degree. So this is an energy of pioneering and new beginnings, but this is also an energy of like combat and conflict and like, desire and passion. So the full moon in Taurus may have us realize that we have been either disconnected from our desire nature, we haven't been living in a passionate way, we haven't been feeling very inspired and motivated. It can also make us realize that we need some kind of new beginning. It being at 13 degrees, which is an Aries degree, we need some kind of new beginning in our life in some type of way. And it may not be like, okay, we just got to throw everything out and just start everything brand new, but there may be like little small incremental steps that you can take during this full moon cycle that can start positioning you or start moving you towards that new beginning and that new life. So a message that I'm getting with the full moon in Taurus being at an Aries degree 13 is like just start moving towards that new direction. You don't need to know what it's going to look like. It doesn't have to be fully in focus. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know, have all the details of the blueprint figured out. No, don't worry about that. Just start moving in that direction. Just start taking the steps. Just start laying the groundwork. Okay. It's like incremental, just getting going is what Spirit is saying. So, a lot of times before we initiate or start something or before we start moving towards something, we feel like we got to have the answers and we got to have it all figured out and we got to have the plan and we got to have the timeline together. And it's so interesting because we try to create security, right? And safety with starting something new or beginning something new. And that's delusional. We can't. You can't. You can't start or begin something new or go into a new direction or even like move into the unknown with a sense of safety and security. It's those things are contradictory. It's not possible. At some point, you're gonna have to detach and let go in order to experience a new thing, in order to go in the new direction. And when you're going and moving in towards something new, towards something unknown, you don't even know what you're getting involved with. You don't even know where you're going many times, right? So expecting to have all the answers and to have the blueprint, have it figured out, that's false. That's unrealistic. It's not real. So Spirit is saying, don't worry about the final outcome. Don't worry about, the blueprint. Don't worry about, what it's going to look like or where you're going to. No, just start moving there. Just start moving step by step, moment by moment, day by day. Just start doing the small little incremental things. And then along the way, the road, the process reveals itself along the way. Everything gets revealed, everything gets shown. That's when you get clarity. That's when you get the wow. That's when you get the confirmation along the way. So there's something about having to follow the breadcrumbs. Taurus, full moon in Taurus, the food metaphors. Having to follow the breadcrumbs, having to follow the breadcrumbs, follow the breadcrumbs. You don't know what the loaf is. You don't know what the full loaf is going to look like yet. You don't even know we don't even know what's baking in the oven. We just know that something is in the oven. We just know that eventually that loaf is going to be ready. There's going to be a dinger, it's going to go off, but for now we just got to follow the breadcrumbs. We just got to go ahead and acknowledge, okay, something is in the oven, okay, or we got to start baking something, all right? We don't know what the final outcome is going to be, and that's fine. That's okay. That's beautiful. That's wonderful because you know what? In that space, and this is something I say all the time, in that space of the unknown and the unseen, in that space of the new and what is unmanifest, there's infinite potential. There is infinite possibility. What you may be thinking, oh, I just want a loaf, but the universe and God is like, you know what? Actually, I got a whole store for you. Actually, I got 20 loaves for you. Actually, I got a loaf with a chicken dinner, with a Pepsi, with, some mashed potatoes. I got a whole meal for you. And you were just waiting for the loaf, or you were just going for the loaf, right? So Spirit is saying, allow yourself to let the unknown, to let the manifest, to let what's unseen, allow that to be what it is, because in that space, there's infinite possibility, there's infinite abundance, there's infinite potential. And what you may be desiring, or what you may be moving towards, or what you may be thinking for yourself, the Spirit, the divine God may actually have something bigger and better and greater. Because all you wanted was a loaf. But Spirit is like, wait a minute, I got these 10 loaves for you and a chicken dinner. Right? So just keep that in mind, okay? Taurus is a sign of abundance. There's a reason why the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. The moon does really well. The moon loves being in the sign of Taurus because in the sign of Taurus, the moon gets to live a comfortable, secure, abundant life. And many people that have Taurus moons, they listen. I know a few people that have a Taurus moon, and let me tell you, they're not only is their mother just the sweetest and the kindest and just the best, okay, but they usually have a beginning of life, or they have a family foundation that tends to be pretty abundant, pretty secure. I know a lot of people that have Taurus moons that grew up in wealth. They grew up with a very wealthy family. They grew up in a big house. They grew up, or at least comfortable. They didn't struggle, at least comfortable. And they have a really good relationship with their mother and their family and stuff. And they're very close bonds. People don't realize this, but this comes from Vedic astrology. Taurus in the second house is a sign and a house connected to family, just as much as Cancer. And the reason being is because Taurus speaks to our family values, the family karma in terms of money and resources. Like, do we inherit money from our lineage, right? Do we pass down money from one person to the other, right? Like, that's what the Taurus moon is about, or that's what the sign of Taurus is about. Where Cancer is more of our emotional experience of our family. Like, was there a lot of intimacy? Or was there a lot of closeness? Was there a lot of emotional expression, right? Where Taurus, it's more about financial security. It's more about financial stability. It's more about the family values, family tradition. This is why Taurus in tarot Taurus is the Hierophant card, right? Because the Hierophant has a lot to do with tradition, family tradition. And you'll see this with Taurus when people have a combination of Taurus and Cancer, they tend to be a little bit more traditional or they tend to be very connected with their family and they tend to honor the family tradition in some type of way. Someone said they're a Taurus moon in the 12th. Yeah, well, the 12th house is going to sour a lot of the exalted state of the Taurus moon, right? So, the 12th house is the most difficult house in the chart, other than the eighth. And when the moon is there, it's going to suffer a lot. The moon is going to suffer and struggle a lot when it's in the 12th house. The relationship with the mother is going to be non-existent. I know a few people that have a 12th house moon in general, and they lost their mom at a young age, or their mom was an addict. They have mental health issues that run in the family. There's addiction issues that run in the family, criminal activity that runs in the family. They don't know who their mom or their dad is. Like, there's a lot of difficulty when we have the moon in the 12th. 12th house placements are not for the faint of heart, but they're also for the purpose of spiritual development. So the other thing to understand is, we choose the chart that we're given before we incarnate here, and we also choose our parents and we choose our lived experience, especially in the beginning of life. We choose the movie that we're born into, and that's what astrology shows us. So when we have a 12th house placement or we have a 12th house moon, we got to ask ourselves in a very deep spiritual way, why did I choose this placement in this life, and what is this placement supposed to teach me, right? Because the 12th house is the house of enlightenment. It's the house of spiritual enlightenment. It's the house of detachment from the material world, and it's the last house of the chart. And it's the final frontier, in terms of our spiritual development, our soul's development. So this is why, the 12th house we're it's like we're dealing with college level themes in terms of being a human when we have 12 house placements. We're dealing with, tragedy and loss, and we're dealing with addiction, and we're dealing with mental health issues, and we're dealing with, you know, disenfranchisement from mother and the father, from family. A lot of times when we have, there's something missing in our life, when you have a 12th house sun or moon, there's like a parent that's missing, or you feel like there's something, an element of you that's missing. And we have to go really deep spiritually. We have to kind of quest and seek and detach from the material world to search spiritually for what's missing, right? But ultimately, it's for the purpose of enlightenment and to learn these very deep, profound lessons as a human being, as a soul, that other people are not going to have exposure to, or they're not, ready to learn. The 12th house is a very tough house, and I go into that when I talk about that very deeply. I talk about that when I do readings for people. I talk about, because I do a lot of readings, but I do a lot of readings for people that have 12th house, 8th house placements. Because I'm a Scorpio, right? And I'm a Pisces rising. So um spirit brings me people that need healing on a soul level, and they're looking for a deep understanding around the why of their life, right? And so when I read a chart for people, it's not just, oh yeah, let me read your chart. No, it's not that. No, it's deeper. It's like, okay, I'm reading into people's soul. I'm using the chart to read into your soul's karma, into you know, your soul's journey. And the chart is your lesson in this lifetime, right? Our birth chart is what we're here. It shows us what we're here to develop, what we're here to learn, how we're here to grow in this life, what our soul is going to experience. That's what the birth chart shows us, right? The birth chart is like, okay, it's like, kind of like a lesson plan. It's kind of like a blueprint for your soul's development in this lifetime, in this incarnation, right? And it also gives us insight into past lives, and it gives us insight into where you are karmically in terms of your soul's development, right? But yeah, I go over that when I do readings for people. So when I give people readings, especially the first reading, the natal chart reading, I kind of speak to their soul's development and I speak to their lived experience and I kind of help them understand, their position in this life and what their soul is here to learn. So, it's a very beautiful thing. Astrology is very beautiful. It's very powerful. It has, it's able to validate so much for us, and it also the beautiful thing about astrology and our birth chart is also shows us that there's a lot of things that we experience in this lifetime that we may feel a victim to, or we may feel like it was like a tragic, terrible thing. And why would, we ask ourselves, why would I have to go through that? Why would God put me through that? Right? But it's in the chart. It's in the chart, you know? Like your mom passing from cancer, that's in your chart, right? Your brother having a tragic accident and dying at the age of 9, that's in your chart. So, if we're able to read these experiences in your chart that were written that you were going to go through, right? That's like there you couldn't avoid it, right? We got to ask ourselves why. Why would I agree to go through this troubling, painful, tragic thing? Because there's something that your soul has to learn. There's an experience that you had to go through to develop and learn something. And many times, what we're learning about grief, we're learning about loss, we're learning about letting go. We're learning about things that are out of our control, things taken away from us, right? And these are very difficult, painful lessons that we're learning, some of us here in this lifetime. Some of us are learning many of us, I would say, many of us, all of us are going to have to learn something very difficult, very hard in this life, but there's some of us that are a little bit more advanced. We're a little bit farther along in terms of our soul's journey. And so, the farther along we are spiritually, the farther along we are on as a soul, the more developed we are, the more difficult the lessons are, the more hard the lessons are, right? So, it's just something everyone's gonna die one day. Everyone's gonna lose somebody one day, right? Like these are universal shared human experiences, right? So, we got to ask ourselves, but detaching from the experience and moving beyond it, what are these experiences meant to teach us? Because that's where the value is. That's where the lesson's at. That's where the magic at. And that's where you're going to find God. That's where you're going to find spirit. That's where you're going to find meaning in your life, right? Is by not just objectively experiencing these situations and being a victim to it and being devastated but also spiritually experiencing it and understanding, wait a minute, this sucked and this was painful and this was tragic and this was terrible and I never want to go through that again. But what did you learn? What did you learn and how did you develop? What did that situation, what did that experience, what did that loss, what did that tragedy, what did that setback, what did that moment of pain, what did that breakup teach you? Because that's where the value's at. And that's where you're going to find spirit. That's where you're going to find the divine. That's where you're going to find God, you know? Someone said that they lost their father and then they went through a breakup. Yeah, I just lost my dad and I just broke up with my ex. Yeah, and a lot of times that's a mirrored thing. That's a mirrored thing. Think about it. You lost your father, which is a male archetype energy, right? For women, the relationship with the father has a lot of influence, even if they don't see it, has a lot of influence on the partners that they choose and the type of men that they end up with. So you lose your father, and then you also go through a breakup and you lose another man in your life. So you're losing two men in your life at the same time. That's a mirrored thing. That is trying to show you something. That is trying to teach you something, right? It's not coincidence that you go through a breakup and you lose your father at the same time because there's some kind of purging that's happening. There's some kind of, the universe is telling you, okay, there's an evolutionary process that you're going through with your relationship with the masculine. Father has left, right? The ex has left. So you're inviting in new energy when it comes to your relationship with the masculine. You want something different. Something's got to give. Something had to evolve. Something had to change. And how many of us, right? This is so appropriate that because we're talking about Scorpio season, right? And we're talking about this full moon in Taurus, where the sun is opposite the moon. The sun's in Scorpio, the moon's in Taurus. How many of us end up going through a total metamorphosis or a total change and transformation when someone passes away, or when something passes away, or when something exits our life? It's like every human being, they've lost a job, they lost a parent, they exited a relationship, there was a moment of loss that triggered a whole life transformation and change for them. That's a shared human experience, right? And that's what the axis of Taurus and Scorpio is about. When you go through a loss or a tragedy, or when you go through a death, right? Or you experience death in your life in some type of way, Scorpio, you transform and change, and it brings new life. Taurus brings you something new. Something comes out of it, right? A new direction, a new opportunity, a new value system, or even a lesson, right? And we're all going to lose somebody someday. We're all going to lose something that's precious to us. It could be an animal, it could be a living situation, it could be a best friend, it could be a partner. We're all going to experience it. We're all going to experience a loss someday that's going to profoundly evolve us and transform and change everything moving forward. That's one of life's guarantees. The signs of Scorpio and Taurus promise you that. The eighth house and the second house promise you that you're going to go through a moment in your life where something is taken away from you, something dies, and everything in your life is going to transform and change after that. And nothing is going to be the same moving forward. So that's the other thing that when we're talking about, a full moon in Taurus with the sun in Scorpio, we're talking about transformations and changes that are permanent, where there's no going back, right? Because when you die, you're dead. Right? Scorpio, death. Death is a permanent transformation. There's no going back. There's no coming back from the dead. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where technology is going. I don't know. We might overcome death. We'll see. With the way technology is unfolding right now, they're trying to conquer death. They're trying to make us immortal. I don't know if you guys knew that, but the powers that be right now, they're trying to solve the problem of death. They're trying to overcome death. Um, it's just not death is part of our soul's journey. It's necessary, right? But when we pass away, when things die, they evolve or it's permanent. There's no going back. And that's what the sign of Scorpio wants to show us. Evolution and transformation and death is a one-way street. It's a circle. There's a circle of life, but there's no actually going back, right? There's no going backwards. So, a lot of the transformations and changes that we experience are going to be permanent. And we got to accept that. That's all part of life. It's the circle of life, right? It moves us all. I love that. It's like one of my favorite movies. I love The Lion King. Also, you got to think about how scorpionic is The Lion King, right? You have a brother that betrays the king, okay? And he ends up, it's also kind of Aquarius, Lion King is a very scorpionic narrative, but it's also very Aquarian because what happens after his dad passes away, what happens? He gets ostracized. He gets kicked out of his community, right? A Simba, and he has to go live with strangers. He gets adopted by Timon and Pumbaa, Aquarius. Aquarius is the karma of being ostracized, being outcasted. Aquarius is the sign of, you know, being raised by someone that's not blood. Exile is an Aquarius thing, right? Opposite of Leo is what? Aquarius. This is why in so many Leo movies or movies that are about kings or princes, there tends to be a moment of ostracization, of being outcasted, of being kicked out of the community because Leo's on the axis of Aquarius. Is Leo and Aquarius are on the same axis. Does that make sense? But the sign the fourth sign away from Leo is Scorpio, family. So in the fourth house away from Leo, if we put Leo on the ascendant, you have Scorpio, which is trauma, which is betrayal, which is death, right? So Leo energy, the Lion King, they tend to experience really traumatic, really difficult, really painful family things because in the fourth house away from them is Scorpio. In the fourth house of family, they have Scorpio, right? So it even makes sense with the Lion King that there would be a traumatic moment, a traumatic death that he experiences in his family, right? Which is part of his lived experience, right? He goes through the death of his father. Simba does, right? And that transforms and changes everything, right? But also how that experience it was a life-defining experience. Everything in his life was changed for Simba once his father passed away, right? And then he goes and he becomes a teenager, Aquarius, because Aquarius is teenage years. He gets ostracized. He gets adopted by Timon and Pumbaa. Aquarius adoption is a Aquarius thing. You know, mixed families is an Aquarius thing. Having a stepmother, having a stepfather, having half siblings, that's an Aquarius thing. That's a Saturn thing, right? Then he has to come back after his teenage years. He comes back to reclaim the throne. The hero's journey, the fall from grace, the ostracization, being in a foreign land, then having to come back to reclaim the throne, the hero's journey. It's literally the archetype. It's literally, this is a tale as old as time. These stories, these narratives, they're archetypal to the astrology, to the planets, to the signs, right? So it's just something, I just want you guys to keep that in mind. You know, these narratives and these stories that we experience in movies are also our own. They're told by the signs, you know? And it's all divinely orchestrated. It's all divinely connected. It's all, and it's beautiful because what it does is it allows us to understand that the difficult, hard, tragic experiences that we go through are also necessary for our soul's development. And there's deeper meaning there, right? Whether or not we want to acknowledge that is up to us, but there's deeper meaning in these experiences, right? So, all right, my loves, but I think we're gonna end it here. Um, I think we're gonna end it here. I've been live for 2 hours now. Now you guys can see why I'm able to just talk and go on and on and on. I'll let you guys know when I'm opened up for readings again. I will tell you this though, when I do open up for readings again, it's gonna be like in a few weeks. I honestly, with where with what I've been feeling like taking the rest of the year off. But I might make myself available for readings in December. But when I do open up my calendar, it's not going to be I'm not going to have as much accessibility or I'm not going to have as many appointment slots. So it's definitely going to be more a little bit more restricted. My calendar's gonna be a little bit more restricted. Okay. So what I will say is, when I do reopen my calendar, if you're someone that's interested in getting a reading done by me, you're gonna want to make sure that you book it pretty quickly, okay? Because I'm not gonna be having my calendar indefinitely open the way that it has been. It's just not working for me. It's gonna be a little bit more exclusive. That's the word I was looking for. It's gonna be a little bit more exclusive. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and post this, and um, I'm gonna post this, and I'm also gonna post it on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch it, you can. Okay. All right, my loves. Well, you guys have a beautiful, blessed day. I love you all so much. Thank you guys for being so amazing. Someone said you need a general reading on Scorpio. Well, a lot of people need a lot of things. Okay. And yeah, we're not doing that today. So maybe next time. I don't know. We'll see. I'm planning on doing content. I'm figuring that out how I want to structure it. But I'm planning on doing general readings for the signs every month. I just got to figure that out. I got to figure out what that's going to look like and how I want to do it. Because I've been toying with the idea of like becoming a streamer and getting on Twitch because I love streaming and I love streamers and I love Twitch. So I've been toying with that idea and then using my Twitch channel to do like collective general readings, at least monthly ones. Um, and then using that to post that content on YouTube. Because I know that long form content, like lives like this, Instagram doesn't cater to this, or Instagram doesn't cater to long form content where streaming and being on Twitch does cater to long form content more. And so, it's obvious that Instagram doesn't really promote or doesn't really, like long form content because I don't get a lot of, I don't get a lot of likes when I do post these lives, and they're not being shown in like the feed, and the logarithms don't really cater to long form content or lives. Instagram really caters towards short form content, bite-sized content, reels, things like that, posts, carousel posts. Instagram really loves carousel posts and loves reels. So, yeah. Someone said definitely stream, but do some research on the founders of Twitch. Someone said maybe not Twitch though. They don't protect their creators against sexual predators. There's always gonna be something. There's always gonna be some streaming platform, something that's not, that's off, or that's not doing something they should be doing. They're spending money to this person, there's always going to be, no one's perfect. No, nothing and nobody's perfect, unfortunately. So that's just the truth of life, right? But I like Twitch as a platform. I love, there's a lot of streamers that I follow and that I watch, and I can definitely see myself streaming and really enjoying it. So someone said they allowed a grown man to sexually abuse one of their top performing creators. I don't think, but is like does Twitch allow that though? Like, you gotta, like, is Twitch like giving did Twitch be like, okay, this, you're allowed to go and abuse this person, right? No. I think it's more so about, there needs to be certain protections that are set up, to protect people from abuse and stuff like that. But it's really hard. Like, it's really hard for social media platforms at all, any social media platform, to protect content creators and to protect creators, especially when you have just weirdos that are out there. You know what I mean? There's just weird people out there. Like, I've experienced some really weird stuff with followers. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've experienced some really weird stuff with followers, like overstepping boundaries and, just being really weird with me. And like, I don't and unfortunately, Instagram can't do nothing about that. Sometimes people are just weird and predatory, and people are weird and obsessive, and people just got weird energy. So, no, sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes it just be like that. Um, but yeah, you know. All right, my loves. Well, I love you all so much. Thank you guys for being here. Everybody that bought a badge today, I appreciate you guys for buying a badge. I'll let y'all know when I'm open for readings again, okay? I'll let y'all know that. But yeah, I'm taking a few weeks off though. So, I'm not doing no readings. I got like one or two left this week, but then I'm done. But those are appointments that I had set weeks ago. So, many of you know that those of you that do readings with me regularly, I get booked out. I get booked out a few weeks, or sometimes I'll even get booked out a month. But I love you all. Take care. Have a beautiful day. Happy full moon in Taurus. Thank you for hanging out and sharing your morning with me. Okay. I gotta go get some food. It's 12 o'clock and I'm hungry. So, mwah! I love you guys so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. I'm gonna go ahead and post this on YouTube as well. So if for those of you that join later on, if you want to go back and rewatch this on YouTube, you can. Okay? Mwah, mwah, mwah. Besitos, love, abundance, beauty, fashion, hair, nails, food, right? If you want to indulge today on a full moon in Taurus, if you want to go get that hair done, if you want to go ahead and eat at that five-star restaurant, if you want to go ahead and get your played with, okay, baby, you go do that. Okay, I love that for you. All right. You want to indulge a little bit? You want to indulge in sensual pleasure. You want to be touched. You want to be massaged. You want to be whatever, whatever today, baby. Go get that done. I love that for you, okay? It's a full moon in Taurus. It's okay to indulge a little bit. It's okay to overspend every now and then. It's okay to treat yourself to that cheesecake every now and then. If you feeling that, you go do that, okay? I love that for you guys. The wine, food, makeup, hair. Yes. It's Taurus. Look at. Let me show you guys the card, okay? And then I'm gonna go, I promise. I gotta show you guys the Empress, because like, what are we doing if we're not? Like, come on. Look at her. the Empress, full moon in Taurus. You think she's worried about that job that she's got to go to tomorrow? You think she's worried about that man? You think she's worried about what people are going to say about her hair and her nail? No. The Empress, she knows her worth. She knows what she likes. She knows what she doesn't like. She knows her values. She knows what tastes good. She knows what good food looks like. She knows what good clothing looks like. Okay, she knows what she knows that a man's got to be paying for her bullshit because she ain't gonna be spending it for on herself. Okay, come on now. The Empress. Okay, the object of true value, right? Men, listen. Let me tell you something. Okay, men have forgot who the true objects of value and beauty are. Okay. The true objects of value and beauty, the true objects of desire, all right, is Venus, is woman. Okay? Like these men have done forgot. They've done forgot that women need to be fought over. Women need to be sought after. Women are the prize. Okay? And these beta men have done forgot that women are the true objects of value. Okay. They weren't raised right. I don't know. I don't know who raised these men, but they weren't raised right. They weren't given proper guidance or instruction from their fathers. That's the problem here. You know, these men, they weren't raised to be good men because they had shitty dads. Okay. That's what they had shitty fathers. The father didn't treat the mother right. Therefore, the son has horrible values, does not know how to treat a woman right. Okay? And understand that it's in the astrology. The nature of the signs tell us, show us that women are the true objects of value and beauty because women are ruled by Venus and the moon. The moon is exalted in Taurus, the sign of money. Venus, right, the planet of beauty and women, rules Taurus, the sign of money and value, and Libra, the sign of beauty and justice. Like, come on now. And so it's really cool because one of the interesting things that I've noticed. Let me tell you one of the interesting things I've noticed, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. I promise. Men that treat women right, especially their spouse, they tend to be more abundant. And men that have a bad relationship with money, they typically have a bad relationship with women too. The better you treat the woman in your life, the more abundant you're going to have, the more abundant your life is going to be as a man. This is what Venus and the moon teach us. The more that you provide security, stability, safety, support to the woman in your life as a man, the better quality woman you're going to get, and the better your relationship is going to be, and the more abundance the divine spirit and God is going to give you. Many men don't understand that the reason why, okay, their financial life is so messed up and so in arrears. I don't even know what that means, but in arrears, I'm gonna look that up real quick because I just, what does that even mean? Oh yeah, okay. This is the reason why their life is so in arrears. So this is what in arrears means. Okay, in arrears means behind with paying money that is owed. So it's like being in debt. Okay, the reason why so many of these men's lives are in arrears, okay, is because they're not treating their woman right in their life. They're not treating their daughters right. They're not treating their girlfriend right. They're not treating their mother right. And this is why they're struggling financially, and why also they're very irresponsible with women because they're irresponsible with money. If you want to know how a man's going to treat you, let me tell you something, okay? If you want to know how a man's going to treat you, take a look at how he treats his money and his relationship with money. Okay? If he spends money recklessly, if he throws money away, he's going to do the same thing with women in his life. Those are all mirrors, my love. Everything is a mirror, everything is a reflection. One thing over here will show you something else about someone over here. But you got to wake up. You got to be able to see. You got to pay attention. These things aren't obvious. These connections aren't obvious. A lot of people don't make these connections. But the way that a man is with money is the way that he is with his food, is the way that he is with his women. So you want to learn a little something about a man, you want to do a little bit of research on him, well, take a look at his spending habits. Take a look at how he treats his money, okay? And what he does with it. Because you know what? Let me tell you something. Money really shows us what is valuable, what we value, where we spend our money, who we spend money on. Okay, what we do with our money shows us through action what we value, what's important, what we appreciate, what we are investing in. So if you want to take a look at your value system, what's important to you, and you don't know, you're like, take a look at where you're spending your money and what you and who you're giving money to, or who you're helping, or who you're supporting, right? Because that is where your values are at. Your spending habits are where your values are at. They're a reflection. They're gonna tell you so. Where you spend your money, your spending habits are gonna tell you more about yourself than a therapist can. Okay, so yeah, look at Don and Deontay said definitely been learning how to invest my money better. Yes, you know when you're learning how to invest your money better, you know what you're also saying. You're learning how to invest in quality relationships better. You're learning how to invest in the woman in your life better, right? That's another thing that's very important, you know. We got to invest in the things that give back to us. We got to invest our time, our money, our energy, our resources into quality relationships, quality connections, quality friendships, quality habits, things of quality. Taurus is a sign that likes quality. So Taurus, full moon in Taurus, it's not about like, oh, let me just go ahead and get that cheap thing. No, it's like, let me save a little bit to get the quality thing. Let me go ahead and save up this money. Let me go ahead and put something aside so that eventually I can get that quality thing. My ex loves investing and he definitely invested in his woman. Oh, that's cool. So, so take a look at your values. Quality over quantity for sure. Taurus is about quality over quantity. Um, Take a look at your spending habits, you know, and take a look at the men in your life and see how they're spending money and stuff because they'll tell you a lot about them. Stop spending so much money, Soul Sage. I don't spend that much money. That's my dad, by the way. Those of you who don't know, this is my father, right? Luis Ortega Sr. right there, that guy. Ortega SR. Lewis, that's my dad. That's my actual dad, okay? So you guys anyone want to say hi to my dad? You can. This is your moment. Yeah, my family's very supportive of me. Um, my mom and my dad, my whole family is very supportive of my work and everything. I'm very blessed because, everyone just like when it comes to me being an astrologer and tarot reader and stuff, the people in my life are just very like, oh yeah, we love that for you. I don't get no pushback. I don't get people that are like, oh, what are you doing with your life? Oh, astrology and tarot. People are like, oh wow, you're so gifted, you're so talented. We love that for you. I get a lot of a lot of just like support. Like I get a lot of unconditional support from my family and from people around me around what I do. I think it's just because I'm a ninth house person. I have a sun in Mercury and Venus in the ninth house, and so people just really they're like anything I do, they're like, wow, anything you do is just wow, amazing. So I'm very blessed for that. I'm very thankful, very blessed for that. All right, my loves. I can go on for hours. I can go on for days. I can keep talking, but I'm gonna shut up now because my stomach is like it's time to eat. My ex always burned through his money and couldn't save. He was a Taurus moon, Virgo rising. Oh yeah, well you see, Virgo can have a little bit of a contentious relationship with money or difficult relationship with money because they have Libra in the second house. And even though, Virgo rising, Taurus moon, that's such a lucky, blessed chart. That's a ninth house moon. That's a very lucky chart to have. But it really, you always want to take a look at the second house. You want to look at the quality of someone's Venus because The second house, the ruler of the second house, what's going on with the second house, and the quality of someone's Venus is going to tell you a lot about the relationship with money and how they go about money and their traumas and their fears about money and what they really value and things. Okay, I gotta go eat. My stomach is telling me it's time to eat. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. For the fourth time, goodbye. All right. And this time, oh, he had an eighth house Venus. That's so he had Venus and Aries, and it's in detriment. Yeah, if he had a, yeah, look at she said Aries Venus. Yeah, Venus and Aries, and it's weak, and it's in detriment, right? It's a eighth house. That's a cheater's Venus right there. When I see an eighth house, 12th house Venus, that's giving me cheating. That's giving me a cheater's Venus. Also, it's an angry Venus too. He probably, your ex probably has women that are always angry at him or fighting him or always arguing with him. He also probably gets financially taken advantage of by women, or he feels like he's always being financially abused or taken advantage of by partners and things like this. He deserves it. Eighth house Venus. I love that for you, sir. That's funny. He has Venus in Aries in the eighth house as a Virgo rising. He deserves it. Any hard, difficult thing he's had with a woman, any kind of, being taken advantage of, having to pay alimony, whatever, he deserves it. That is, I love that for him. Okay. That's part of his soul's journey. That's part of his development. Okay. Yeah. We usually get a eighth house Venus from a father or mother that cheated on the other spouse. So when we have an afflicted Venus, it's usually because our mother and our father were having relationship issues or there's some kind of betrayal or some kind of deception um when you were in the womb. When the parents were in the womb or when you were in the womb and yeah, at that time. So because our chart is a reflection of the energy that our parents were in at the time of conception. And yeah. Yeah, him and his dad are cheaters. Exactly. So he got an eighth house Venus from a cheating dad. That's how you get an eighth house Venus. From a not always. It could be a mom too, depending on the chart. But there's eighth house, 12th house Venus usually comes from a parent that was cheating, deceiving, taking advantage of the other parent. You must be a Taurus like me. I'm a Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio. Yeah, I'm a Scorpio. Yeah. All right, my loves, for real. I'm over here start over here breaking down your guys' charts and stuff. So I'm gonna go now. All right. But I love you all. Have a good day. Mwah, bye. I'll see you. Bye.